everybody, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. I'm your girl, Coach Christal. If you're just joining us, you are in for a treat because a lot of times people are wondering about the genesis of Coach Christal, but I got to tell you, it's not a short story. And so tonight we're going to get a snippet of how some of the evolution of what you see now on the Steps and Stages platform has come to fruition. But don't let me get ahead of myself. I want to welcome you in with the Steps and Stages mantra that just says a lot of things happened before this. And I guarantee a lot of things are going to happen after this, but I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. If you're just joining us for the first time, the Wisdom Wednesday podcast is a place where I get to talk to people I'm inspired by, people who are teaching things in the world that I think are wonderful, or people who have just lived vision-driven lives, and I want to share their stories with you. Now, tonight might feel a little bit different because way back in like 2004, my friend Paloma McGregor and I, who was in a dance, we were in a dance company together that I built called In Spirit. We had this idea that, what could we do for the community? And it really sparked from a show that we had called Becoming. It was our New York debut at the Joyce Soho, which doesn't exist anymore. And I would start coming in contact with young women in New York City in the middle of the day. And I just thought to myself, what are y'all doing in the middle of the day? Now, I was a very inquisitive teenage girl, to say the least. And I lived in a small town, and I knew the kind of things that I was investigating on my own during the day with a car in a small town. And I just wondered, what were these young women doing with unlimited Metro cards in the middle of the day? And I wanted to make sure that if they did have questions, they had a place to get them answered from someone who wasn't their mother. No judgment, no teacher, can't give you a grade. Just want to keep it real with you so that you can become the greatest person you can be. So when I was kind of cleansing my own karma and doing this from my own teenage years, I ran into a lot of dynamic young women. And tonight we're going to meet one of them. Her name is Jasmine Barber. She was class of Project Becoming, I would say, circa 2011, I believe. And we're going to let her tell you a little bit about her experience, but we're also going to see what she's doing right now. So please help me welcome Jasmine Barber. Hey, Jazz.
Hi, how are you?
I'm amazing. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Good. Now, I was just telling people a little bit about Project Becoming. Now, it's been a while. I mean, you're in the digits that start with threes at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, tell the people, give us like a recap of what you actually remember from that time.
I think one of the main things that I remember the most, I always go back to our dance recital, that last final project.
Uh-huh.
And I just remember the one thing that always comes to my mind and my mom always reminds me of is when we did the whole body and just like our internal and our external feelings and emotions. So I always go back to that just because it gave me that opportunity to just like express things that maybe I didn't express on a regular day basis. Things of like, because it was like, everybody see when like you have this like broken bone, but no one sees like what's broken inside of you or things of that sort.
Yeah.
So I always bring it back to there. We had our big dance recital, but just like coming together as a whole and being able to get to know each other on a deeper level, that is always what I just remember about Project Becoming.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you remember that exercise because, during the pandemic, which I know you had a big move to Texas during the pandemic, but in the pandemic, Jazz, we turned the Project Becoming program into a Project Becoming box, right? And so we sent the exercises with videos to people's houses in the box. And there were women in their 50s and 60s who were like, I cannot get past exercise 2. Right? Similar to what you're talking about. Like, how do I look at my body and then say the things that have happened to me while acknowledging the things that are happening within me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, like I always just remember like my mom, just like even my mom, we were super close, but even like when she looked at the actual project, she was like, "Oh my goodness, Jasmine, I never would have thought this." And it was like, because it made you just think about your internal, like what really like makes that head hurts, what really hurts your heart.
Yeah.
It just gave me that opportunity to just like make sure like even though you don't have like a scar on your body, you just like have like internal scars, and like you have to acknowledge those things.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love it. So, okay, this was 2011, right? It's
2009.
2009.
It was 2009.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is even for those of y'all who sometimes tune in and see my son on here. That's way before he wasn't even born.
No, you didn't have a son.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that, I mean, so y'all got all my attention. It was y'all, it was all on you. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
had to deal with that. Yeah. I love it. I love it. So this, let's go back. 2009 is 2023. Give us the highlight reel of Jasmine Barber now that she is a 7th grade ELA educator. You know, just give us a little backstory.
Okay, so from 2009 to now. Okay, so graduated high school.
Yeah.
Wanted to go away for college.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't go too far, but I went to Rutgers Camden.
Okay.
First year, lost my mind.
Okay. Just a little bit.
Like,
the whole thing, or like a little, just a
whole
little
thing.
bit. The whole thing. Okay.
The whole thing.
Okay.
My mother brought me back home.
Okay.
She said, "Okay, we're gonna try this again. We're gonna reset. We're gonna try this again." So came back home, and because one of the reasons why I kind of lost my mind that first year is because I went into school not knowing what exactly I wanted to do. So because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, kind of lost my mind. So then we had to take a step back.
Just as a side note, your mama is in the comments saying you lost your whole mind. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I see you. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes. So came back. So just having a conversation with my mom, decided that I was going to take a pause for school, and I was going to go to Essex County and get my associate's degree. So probably best decision ever. Because attended Essex County gave me the opportunity to just explore different career fields. I went into criminal justice. I went into English. I went into we had a hip hop class. I was like, maybe hip hop is for me.
I know you were ready. Ready.
I went through so many different things, but I joined this creative writing class. When I joined this creative writing class, our first class project was like, we had to write like a mini story. We had to write a mini story. So as we're writing like this mini story, I got so excited writing this story because I was always a reader. Like when my mom introduced me to reading into high school, I lost my mind with reading as well. But this creative writing class, when I started writing the short story, my professor said, "Okay, Jasmine, he said, I don't give these type of assignments out often, but if you complete this story, I will give you an A for the semester." So I said, okay,
that's a good deal.
I said, that's the only thing I got to focus on this semester. Okay. So I completed the story in terms of the assignment, and he loved it. And he was like, I think this is such good writing, and I just want you to go further. But he was just, professors, just, I made this comment, I'm moving on. But it stuck with me. It really stuck with me. And because it stuck with me, I went further with the story, and it became a book. So then author. So so 19 years old, I published my first book. Based off of the story that I started in my creative writing class. So I got my first book, surprised my mom, surprised the world, because nobody knew I was writing a book except probably like 5 people.
Yeah.
And wrote that book. And from there, I'm 5 books later. So 5 books later.
Okay.
So that would be like my biggest life highlight. Then I started working, and as I was writing, I was still working. I started working. I went from like just having like random part-time jobs to I got my first like big girl job, and I started working in corporate with United Healthcare. And even with that, life was just a little life, and I ended up enrolling back in school to get my bachelor's degree. So I graduated from Essex County. I went back to school to get my bachelor's degree. I enrolled at Montclair State. And when I enrolled at Montclair State, I decided I was going to major into English. So didn't know what I wanted to do with this degree. I just knew I loved reading, and English is the best way we're going to get to here. So started school. then I started getting into communications, and
Yeah.
I got into child advocacy.
Hmm.
And then doing that, I took a whole bunch of child advocacy classes because I ended up minoring in it.
Yeah.
And then after that, I took one education class, and I was like, you know what? And we were like, did a project, and it was like, how would you teach this book? And I was like, you know what? Thinking about my experience in high school and how I was taught, like, I would teach this so much better. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
decided. So I looked into programs because I went to a KIPP high school, and a KIPP middle school. So I looked into this program where they would help me get a master's degree, and they will pay for majority of it.
Yeah.
And I found one, and I ended up applying in all of these different states because at this point in my life, I was just ready to like explore the world.
Yeah. And
And
you
because
had your mind back. You had your
yeah,
mind
I had my mom back. I
back.
had
Okay.
lost it, and I got it back.
Okay.
So then I applied all over. I applied in Atlanta. I applied in Washington D.C. I applied in Texas, and I also applied for another program, and I got offered like a science position in North Carolina, but horrible at science, so I had to decline it
Yeah.
immediately.
Okay.
But then I ended up getting a position in Texas, and it was the best deal. I wanted to move to Texas ever since I was one of the people who I was traveling. I'm like, I want to live here, and I just took that, took it and ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
ended up moving to Texas during the pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
I became a teacher while it was still virtual. And then 4 years later, still in education.
Here you are. Here you are.
Here I am.
I love it. I love this highlight reel. Like, I'm sure there's some amazing details in there that we just missed, but we can talk about those offline. Um,
Yeah.
but what I really want to say to people, because, Jazz, you've known me for, 15, a long time at this
Yeah.
point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you've watched, right? Like how my life changes because my life is a pretty public endeavor, right?
Yes,
But
absolutely.
yeah, right, right. But at the same time, what you're illustrating is so beautiful to me because it's the exact reason we started Project Becoming, right? We started Project Becoming to say to young women specifically, now it's a kind of multi-gender project, but now we started with young women because we were like, you don't have to do it all right, but you have to do it so that you get to know more of you. Right. And that's not something that a mother might say to a daughter. It's not something that a family might encourage a daughter to do because it feels dangerous. It doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel secure in terms of a job, in terms of your lifestyle. Right. But the way that you are telling us these highlights, right, that there was nothing in your story that said, well, I failed and then I had to try this. Every time you got to another milestone, it was like, and then I realized I really like this. So I did, right? And so it's that connection to your desire and your action that really builds vision. And I love hearing it. I'm super proud of you. And I just want to say, I don't know if y'all heard that out there. If clients are listening, Jazz said she was writing this book. Nobody knew except for the four or five people that were close to her partners in believing, right? Because we talk about this in our community all the time, Jazz. We're like, you don't have to tell everyone because they might not be ready to hear it. You need to tell the people who are still trying to grow in the same way that you're growing so that y'all can grow together. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like even my mom is literally my best friend, and I tell her everything. But even that, I literally, the day my first book came out, I released the book. Released it, and I was just like, it was just a random phone call, and I was like, "Hey, mom," and she was like, "Hey, Jasmine." I'm like, "Just wanted to let you know my book just came out," and she like, "What?" I'm like,
Right, right, right. It is beautiful, right? Because now you're 30 years old.
mm-hmm.
You've published 5 books, right? You are living a life by design. You go where you want. You've been teaching for 4 years. And I know that I think we checked it a little bit earlier, right? I know that teaching is now giving you some challenges, right? But
Yeah.
they're not about what you're doing. I think it's more about the system. Would that be fair?
Yes, it's definitely about the system.
Yeah. So what is that? What is the conflict teaching you about yourself?
I think one thing that conflict is definitely teaching me about myself is that one thing that I always go back and forth with is like my morals stay the same. So like so it's teaching me that even a career boundaries have to be set.
Mm,
And you have to stay true to what you believe in. It's I can't conform and just like do something because this is like just what we have to do. If it goes against the things that I believe in, then like I'm always going to challenge my anything that goes against the beliefs that I have for myself. So I think that's one thing is teaching me that like I have to stay true to myself, and no
yeah,
matter what the career is.
yeah. I love it. I love it. I mean, Jasmine, I don't know if you know this, so I'm just gonna say it out loud while your mama can hear me too, because she's funny in these chat in this call. Um, I just want to say this out loud, right? So that you hear me say this. And I don't know if you know this or not, right? There are not a lot of women, especially from my generation, who were this clear about who they were at 30. Right. And so I just want to give you, I mean, I want to give you this accolade. I want you to understand that your clarity and your confidence are not the norm. Right. And I think what has happened in the way that you've made decisions along the way have actually given you more confidence in your own intuition rather than trusting someone else's ladder of success, because many people are trying to achieve success and there's so much life beyond success, right? And they never get to that point, or they wait until it's too late to have that life. And I just want to just say that, I mean, some of the things, I know that some of this intuition and is hard earned, but you actually got the lesson. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Listen, it's people that have to learn that stuff over and over and over again, right? Until it like slaps them upside the head and they have no other choice, right? But growth is a decision. And I'm super proud of you for continuing to make these choices, because I know that this is not it for you. What's next?
Whew, I don't know. So it's so crazy because I don't know. I always go back and forth. One thing I did promise myself is that the kids that I started with, I wanted to see them go off to high school.
Hmm.
And this is the final year. They're in 8th grade now. So this is like the final year. I taught them twice in their 4 years of middle school.
Uh-huh.
And so I made a promise to myself. I made a promise to God that I will definitely see them off into high school, even with some of the hiccups that I had, because last year, the same job that I'm at, I quit last year, took some time off, came
Mm-hmm.
back 2 months later.
Yeah.
Um, but I made that promise to myself. I also made that promise to my kids. So I did want to like just make sure I went through with that promise. And so now I honestly, with all of the changes in education and things of that sort, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if by the end of the year I will still be in education. And if I am in education, it will be education outside of the classroom. I do know that much.
Mm-hmm.
If I continue to be in education, it will be outside of the classroom. It will honestly be trying to make changes so that students can authentically learn, and
Yeah.
students can not only authentically learn, they can authentically learn and retain what they are learning.
Mm.
So where I will be, I have no idea. I do know that I'm going to definitely put my best step forward, and I'm going to make the best decision for myself. I'm also make the best decision for the future leaders of this world. I need to trust the person that I am going to call a doctor. I
Yeah.
need, I need to trust the people that is going to lead this world, and the only way I can trust them is if I teach them to be those people. So
I love it. I love it. I love the legacy that I hear in your voice. I mean, your mama is also in the comments with some suggestions that you should probably write curriculum, but I'm gonna leave that to y'all. Y'all can have that conversation later.
yes, yes.
Jazz, we're gonna like shift gears for just a second, right? So, Project Becoming to now, the highlight for you was the body map exercise,
Yes.
right? Now, is there anything that you do inside your classroom, right, that you feel like is as impactful as that exercise was on you?
Yes, I think one of the things that I do in my classroom that really like impacts not only myself but impacts the students
Mm-hmm.
is those morning check-ins. We always try to like those morning check-ins really can make or break someone's day.
Yeah.
It's not as impactful as like just like reflecting on their lives, But like even every day, like during we have like this SEL block in our day where
Mhm.
my homeroom they get to sit and they get extra time with me. And the first thing that we do before we do anything else is we'll watch CNN 10 so that they can see the news around the world. Because
Mhm.
I think one thing that we are teaching kids is okay to check out from the world. And I
Ah.
always use that time to like bring it back because there are a lot of things going on in the world, and I want
Mhm.
them to reflect on that. Just because it's not happening in your backyard, that does not mean things are not happening. So I think one of the things that I really like pride myself on is making sure that they have that current events, because current events matter to students.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's one of the things. And just the reflection, how does this make you feel? I think we also have to get to the point where students are expressing the way that they things are making them feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so when, for example, 9/11 happened, I'll play the video, CNN did a whole tribute video,
Mhm.
asked students before who knew about 9/11, and it was like crickets. And
Mm.
then it was like, okay, I'm realizing, okay, y'all were not here for 9/11, so I cannot blame you for that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I can moving forward teach you what was that like? How does this make you feel? What are you going to do to like make sure that you are being the best you
Yeah.
and things of that sort? So I think that's the most impactful thing. And my kids, sometimes they love it, sometimes they hate it, but they always gonna remember what happened in the news. So
Yeah.
I think that's the most impactful thing that we do on a daily basis that I'm gonna stay true to for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I love it because I think we forget as adults or older people sometimes is that young people are not just trying to know about the world, they're trying to find their place in it. Right.
Absolutely.
And in order to find their place in it, they got to understand a little bit of context. Yeah, I think that's great, Jazz. I love it. I love it. Now, we have a question for you that we ask each guest each season. Okay.
Okay.
Now, each season we have a different question. Now, we know your mama is listening, but just imagine she's not there. Okay.
She's not
Because this might involve her. Okay.
okay.
So, the question we're asking every guest this season comes from a Don DeLillo quote. And the quote says that the family is the cradle of the world's misinformation. Right. And so we know that, although most of our family, they mean well, if they haven't done what you're trying to do, or you're blazing a new path, they might have some advice for you that's, just don't work. Right. So what is something you may have had to unlearn as you were getting to this stage of your life?
Oh, I'm gonna make a lot of people mad right now.
It's okay. It's okay. We're growing. We're growing.
Okay. I think one thing that I had to unlearn is from my family, and it's actually about family. One thing I have to unlearn is that even family sometimes don't have your best interest at heart.
Hmm.
Family use family generational curses, they use generational issues to make you stagnant in life. So I think that's really the biggest thing. I love I love my family.
Of course. Yeah.
Sometimes I do not like some of my family
Yeah. Yeah.
because is everybody does not have to go through the same struggle. I don't have to do things the way that you do. I think a lot of people, we are judgmental on people's lives and we don't know what people go through. I think one thing that like everybody's every time family anything somebody from your family says you have to listen to it, and I think that is the opposite. I think you need to listen to what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I think you also need to like just because they're family, they don't have your best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm.
If I listened to most of the things that my family said, I would not be the person that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And it honestly goes for like me and my mom. Like if I believed everything that my family told me about how me and my mom were going to grow up, how me and my mom were going to live our life, how our lives would be now, me and my mom would not be where we are right now. My mom is legitimately like one of the most successful people in our family.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my mom, her path was not a normal one, but she got to where she got because she went against everything that their family tried to teach her. So I think that would be the most thing. you have to make sure that like you do what you have to do, because your path is your path. You are the only one who is going to have to deal with consequences or the successes of life
It's
because
true.
of the things that you do. I have people in my family who have never read a book from me, but they will tell me, but they will brag about me in front of other people, but they have never read a book of mine. They have never bought a book. They have never shared a link of any sort.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I, the family is the family that I make,
Yeah.
not the family that I was born into.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. The thing is, Jazz, is that in our vision builder program, right, which is like the graduate level of project becoming, basically. Okay. Right. Right. So we talk a lot about this because what ends up being in our minds are the paradigms that people who say that they love us first teach us, right? And if we can't unlearn those paradigms or those deep beliefs, we can't get to what we believe about ourselves. Right. And
Absolutely.
so I just love it that you've been able to really say to yourself, listen, that might be their advice, but their advice has nothing, can't really compare to my experience because they've never had that experience. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I like, even if I'm one of the few people in my family right now, and I give all the flowers to my younger generations. All of the people in my generation, we have our stuff down pat. It's our older generations. It's like we have to unlearn this stuff. We have to unlearn this stuff because it truly gets unhealthy. It
Yeah.
gets unhealthy. So like I do shout out to my younger Barber family, my younger Johnson family, because we
You're
have to
making
unlearn
changes.
it. Yes, we have to unlearn it. We have to understand that when things are unhealthy for you, they are unhealthy for you. No matter how many times you try to do it, they are unhealthy for you.
Yeah. And most of the time, I think the biggest understanding we need to have as family, chosen family or blood family, is that if it's unhealthy for you, it's probably unhealthy for us.
You
Right.
can't be the best you if you are not, like, you cannot be the best you if you're feeling any type of anxiety towards the things that, if every time you make a decision you feel anxiety or you feel anxious because you just don't know what, like, that's a okay feeling. But
Yeah.
if you do not like the person you are when nobody else is in the room, it's time for a change.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, y'all. My coach heart is full right now. I feel like I did a good job in 2009. I feel like I planted some good seeds. This is harvest time over here. I'm loving this.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love what you're saying, Jazz. I love that you are actually spreading this to the next generation through your classroom. I believe you are really aligning your awareness, your articulation, and your aspirations into something that is really feeding the next generation. And I'm super proud of you. I'm super excited. I'm so glad you joined us tonight. We're gonna drop some links below these videos, y'all. So if you need to get your copy of a Jasmine Barber book, I mean, she got 5. I ain't got but one. Get on it. Get on it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get some signed copies over here. And last but not least, we are about, let's see, 28, 30, about 40 days away from Vision Camp Live. Vision Camp Live, October 28th in Middlebury, Vermont. If you've never been to Vermont, it's the most beautiful time of year to see the Green Mountain State. And if you have been inspired by this young woman's transformation and her ideas about intuition and overcoming, then you're going to really want to be in the building so you can build a life by design and not by default. We're going to drop the link to Vision Camp Live in the chat as well so you can grab your tickets. Of course, there's a general admission and there's a VIP admission. The VIP admission just says, you get a copy of Coach Christal's first book and you get to have lunch with me during the break. So we hope you take advantage of it. We hope you don't miss it. And most of all, we just hope that you invest in yourself because as Jasmine has illustrated, you are the primary reason for doing the work, right? And so we just want to see you there. We hope to see you there. Jazz, you have any last words for our audience tonight?
I do. Okay, I always want to leave off with just saying, like, one thing that I pride myself on being is, even at this age, like, find the things that you hold true to yourself. And if you find the things that you hold true to yourself, nothing else matters. Make sure you hold those true, create boundaries in your life, create boundaries, and don't let anybody break down those boundaries. Your boundaries are your boundaries, and you do what you have to do to make sure that you cannot be the best you if you are not feeling good about yourself. So that's
It's true.
always what I want to leave with.
It's true. We say the same thing. Discipline is the highest form of self-love. Love yourself, keep your life intact, and keep living a life by design. Thank you, Jazz. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.